The Seven Deadly Sins, Four Nights of the Apocalypse is just getting better and better with the release of the third chapter, building up the hype of Percival and who or what he really is and why he's so goddamn strong. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another review of the Seven Deadly Sins, Four Nights of the Apocalypse manga. Missed last week's, but that's just because I was too busy to do another review of it, but I'm really liking this manga so far. I absolutely love this series so far. It is definitely going to be one of my favorites going forward, and I really like this new direction that we're going with in the Seven Deadly Sins universe, as we're 3 chapters in, and it's just basically mainly about Percival. We're not going and talking about the other Seven Deadly Sins yet, although that will be exciting when they probably will make a cameo appearance at some point, and their children, but I absolutely love it. And thank you guys so much for the support on my last review of the manga. You guys killed the like goal, and a lot of people seem to really like that, so I'm going to keep doing these Seven Deadly Sins chapter reviews as much as possible, especially when there's a really good chapter. Now, last week, kind of what happened was he ran into probably his new, what is going to be his group of friends. They're like basically traveling performers. They can use magic. And then he saves the village from a giant wolf. And that wolf also had that symbol on it, which means he was being tracked and looked at. And then, so he is now, the knights know where he is at, where Percival is at. The chapter starts off with just the aftermath of what's happened in the village. And people are like, is this some kind of, bad omen? They're like, I've never seen a wolf this big. I've heard that more of those nightmarish monsters appear in the other villages too. But overall, they're still really happy about basically not being eaten by it. And it's really funny is it goes to a bath scene after this of Percival bathing with the girl in the group. I believe her name was Elba. And it's funny because Percival keeps staring at her body and she's like, why do you keep staring at me? It seems like you're more grown up than what you look like. Because Percival, while he is 16, he looks like a little kid. Now, I remember in my review a few weeks ago, I said that Percival looks old. I was just kidding. I was being sarcastic because he looks like a child. But anyways, it's so funny because he starts feeling her breasts. And he's like, wow, it's just like Gramps said. The boobs of a girl are really soft. And I'm just like, man. And then she pushes him under the water. And then he feels her up down there. This really reminds me of Kid Goku and the original Dragon Ball, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's pretty hilarious, but they kind of have their back and forth, and they talk about how that the main guy in the group is actually, he wanted to be a sacred knight, but he just really wasn't fit out for it. They weren't strong enough, and essentially she explains to Percival what a magic knight is, or a holy knight, and they are basically a knight who wields a huge magical power to protect the kingdom and the people, which we all know that, of course. We all read Seven Deadly Sins or watched it or however. But when she says the creed, Percival recognizes that his grandpa used to say those words too. And then he asks about what magic is. So he doesn't even know what magic power is. So it seems like he doesn't have it. But she kind of felt bad that they didn't have enough power to become magic, or the holy knights, sacred knights. And she basically talks about how he might have what it takes to become one because he took down the giant wolf, and he is just a 16-year-old kid, but he does say he doesn't have any magical power, which will, of course, make things different. Now, he returns to the village after the bath, and the villagers are incredibly happy for him, or happy for what he did. They're calling him the savior of the village. They're all doing a big cheers. They're giving him alcohol. They're basically making this joke because they're talking about being able to drink and being old enough. And apparently, all of these people in this party are 16-year-olds because they all talk about they're 16, and then Percival's like, oh, we're all the same age then, because Percival is also 16, and it's so funny because Elba, the girl, was like, I got seen and got fondled by, because it's really not as bad if this is just like an 8-year-old kid who doesn't know any better, but he's a 16-year-old, oh my god, it's total Dragon Ball vibes, which obviously so the original Seven Deadly Sins manga, huge inspiration from Dragon Ball. Meliodas is kind of a lot like Goku. The fights, kind of like Dragon Ball fights. And then the power levels and stuff. That is one of the mangaka's inspirations, and it's good. Honestly, I think it's better than Dragon Ball. It's a better power system, an overall better story with actual foreshadowing. I digress. This is another really cool moment, is one of the villagers comes up. It's a grandson and grandfather, and they're really thankful of being saved. And this really strikes at Percival because he just sees the relationship of what he had with his grandfather. So he goes to the boy and says, make sure to take care of your grandpa from now on, which obviously it's not been that long at all since Percival's grandpa died, so he's obviously still recovering. But now Percival goes around the village asking for people if they know of Ironside, the holy sacred knight, and nobody knows who he is. And while he's doing this, a black armored knight comes down from the sky, and he actually comes down to see Percival. Now, this is the knight that was tracking down the wolf that had the symbol on it that Percival defeated. And this knife, he looks a little pretty beefy, he looks pretty strong, but he comes down and he says, "You're in quite good shape." It seems that he had some feelings for his son after all. He's obviously talking about Ironside and how he basically let Percival survive, because Percival just has a scar. He's overall fine. But basically, one of the party members now goes and stands up for Percival, and it's pretty cool to see that they're now standing up for him. But this dude, hey, he's not going to do much. He puts his arm on his shoulder, and he can't even move him an inch, because this is a sacred knight. This guy couldn't even become one, and he just bitch slaps him, knocks him hundreds of feet away, and he's like, oops, I meant to shake him off lightly, to show that this is a huge power gap. Like, this is a big, strong knight. And it's real that he is the Knight of Black Pelgart, and he is a fellow of his grandfather and a father. So that means that he could be the friend or a former ally. Now, it's funny because we have the 6 Knights of Black. Definitely don't think that this is one of those guys. This is definitely a holy knight, not one of the 6 Knights of Black. I believe he's just a Knight of Black because he has black colored armor, which, god damn it, again, I messed up with the thumbnail coloring because I definitely painted him gray because I forgot that he was black. But oh well, maybe I'll change it if I have time. But anyways, they are going back and forth, and they're not listening to each other. Percival says something, and Pelgart doesn't say anything in response, and then Pelgart says something, and then Percival doesn't respond to that. So basically, they're just going back and forth, and this leads to them actually fighting each other. And this is where it gets good, because Percival pretty much no-diff that wolf, and so this holy knight is definitely going to be a challenge for him. And he kicks him, gets all mad, he's punching him, and he actually knocks him back several feet. And the knight, Pelgart, takes this into consideration. He's like, wow, the power to push along this heavy armor? This guy's really interesting. And the fight goes on, and Percival's like, if I beat you, you gotta tell me about my father, Ironside. And then Pelgart says, but if I win, I'm gonna take you along. And he wants to actually raise Percival. So I'm wondering if Pelgart is actually not gonna be evil. If he's actually gonna be a good guy. I'm really wondering that from here on out. But anyways, they're fighting, keep going back and forth. I think it's a good fight. Obviously, Percival does not have the upper hand. Pelgart is just like tanking all of the attacks, and doesn't even look like to be trying that hard, and Percival is struggling. And yeah, this is, I guess, Percival's fight against the Holy Knight. It's first one. I mean, his grandfather seemingly was one at one point, but his grandfather also was probably not in his prime, and we don't know how strong his grandfather was exactly, but his grandfather did say that Percival did almost win in their like wrestling match, but then again, maybe Gramps was holding back. And he talks about how he's overestimating Percival because while he's the son of Ironside, he has no magic, and he still wants to train Percival. So it keeps giving the vibes that maybe he's not evil. He is beating the crap out of Percival, but maybe it's for his own good, and he will train him at some point. And interestingly enough, that one weird fox from the previous chapter shows up again, and he's watching Percival fight. So I wonder what that thing is going to be, and that'll be interesting for the next chapter, I think. But right as that thing is looking at him, Percival awakens something in him. He knocks back Pelgart. Pelgart's like, what happened? And the chapter ends with, what's that power? Percival has magic power seemingly emanating from his hands. So it does seem that Percival isn't magicless. He just didn't know how to use it. He needed it to be awakened. Now, maybe that little fox thing gave him the power, but I don't really know because it didn't really look like it was doing anything. I was just watching the fight. But I think that it definitely is probably just Percival awakening his power. Maybe he was sealed away. Maybe just never been able to train it, so now he needed this to be broken out of him. But he is the son of Ironside, who has magic power. So definitely he should have some of his own since he is the child of Ironside. And that's where the chapter ends. And honestly, I think it's really good, and I'm really excited for the next chapter to see him and see how his power works. Is he just going to only have magic, and it's going to be kind of like Ki in Dragon Ball at first, where it's just only powering him, shooting blasts of energy with it, doesn't really know how to use it or make spells? Or is it going to be something that he can actually manifest into more like spells and stuff like that? More complex magic. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to. Look forward to how that fox, that weird fox animal thing, what's the deal with that thing? And also Pelgart, is he really going to be evil? Or is he actually going to be a good guy, and he's actually going to train Percival, and he's going to be like the new mentor now? I could definitely see that. He doesn't seem too evil. Like, too evil. He is a Holy Knight, but then again, Holy Knights can be corrupted. It does seem like Ironside might not be the best. Maybe Ironside is just currently not on the right path. I mean, he did kill Gramps because he thought that Gramps was going to kill King Arthur. But still, what's the evidence behind that? But still, great chapter because it has a great fight. It's building up the story, making us ask questions. So overall, great start because there's so many questions that need to be answered. I'm sure they will be over the course of time. With that being said, guys, that's pretty much it for my chapter review and summary and analysis of the chapter. Overall, it's really good. 3 chapters in it, I've loved every single chapter. I think I'm reading about 17 manga chapters a week from 17 different series, and I believe that every chapter now has been top 5 for me, and I think 2 of them have been top 3, and I think the first one was number 1 for me, or maybe it was number 2, since Record or Ragnarok came out that week. But anyways, guys, absolutely loving it. So hyped for the future of this series. Percival's growing on me. The one thing I don't like is his color design. I think that his actual design in the manga itself is good, but his color scheme is kind of meh to me. But overall, I like his character. His personality reminds me of Kid Goku, and I really like the mystery being built up. And I know that, honestly, it's probably going to be something where the creator of Seven Deadly Sins, Nagappa, is actually going to take some more inspiration from Kid Goku and probably make a better story than Toriyama did. Anyways, guys, please leave a like if you enjoyed. Let's shoot for 1,000 likes once more because you guys killed that like goal. And we're almost at 50,000 subscribers. We're getting closer and closer. So let's subscribe if you have not yet. That being said, hope you guys all have an amazing day. Plus...